So are we going to buy the 300mm f2.8 for our wildlife photography on Camilla and I? Well, what a lens. I mean, some people have been waiting years for this lens, and it's roughly half the weight of the 400mm or the 600mm primes, and it fills that gap at 300mm at f2.8. Superb. So you have all the bells and whistles as you'd expect on a GM prime lens from Sony. The only thing it hasn't got on the lens barrel is a preset focusing button, so you could pre-focus on a branch, stick, etc., and then you can instantly recall that by pressing a button on the barrel to come back to that particular focal point. So it hasn't got that, but everything else absolutely superb. f2.8 for that shallow depth of field. Stunning isolation of the subject at 300mm. Absolutely superb. So will we be getting this bad boy on Camilla and I? Well, it's half the price of the 600mm, which we use all the time here in the UK. So if Camilla and I were on safari in Africa in our Jeep, I must admit the 300mm f2.8 would be a given lens that we must have. But with our local accessible wildlife photography here on Camilla and I, we have other workarounds. Because we haven't had this option for so many years, there are many ways to getting to 300mm and indeed 400mm. So we are using at the moment the Sony latest 70 to 200mm and the 1.4 teleconverter. This gets us to a very usable range, 280mm at f4. So it's not quite the 300mm, but it's darn close, and it also costs about half the amount of the new 300mm f2.8. So we have nearly got to 300mm with this combination already, and we were very happy photographing butterflies and insects this summer with this combination. So we can't really justify the expense to go to, £5,000–6,000 for the new lens yet on Camilla and I. But maybe you have a particular purpose in mind, and I think that's what this lens is dedicated for. Say on safari or a professional sports photographer, a f2.8 would be an absolute given at 300mm. Anyway, let us know in the comments below. There may be something we're missing, and we really need to buy the 300mm f2.8 for our wildlife photography. Anyway, just a quick one on Camilla and I, and remember to check out my video on ways to getting to 400mm using the Sony system that covers this particular combination. I'll put a link to that one. Anyway, whatever you're shooting, have a good one. Bye from Camilla and I.